Today is big. Today is big. I have to tell you, I can't give you a disclaimer every 5 minutes. And I know you are dilettantes. So you show up and you leave. And I'm not saying the rest of your life isn't important. I'm just saying any bit of this today could fry you. Because you play with me, you're playing with fire. I watched a little clip the other day. Some movie. Guys were practicing sniper rifles. I don't know why I got this. I shouldn't hold it. But it's a helpful analogy. And their trainer was coming near them and shooting in the ground right near them and docking them if they flinched. I am training you. I often call this a class. Now, it's also sacred. It's also art. It's also a hospital, a clinic, a place to gather you to heal. It's also an incredible way to transform yourself and meet people who can love you in a way that very few other people can. It's a lot of things. And one of the most essential challenges here is for me to help you be ready. Today may bring up a lot in you. Don't blame me for what comes up in you. If you are well, you can stare at all sorts of things. You can move past all sorts of dissonance and challenge and confusion. This triggers you, you own yourself. Because today, all expectations off. I might sing, I might dance, I might yell, I might scream, I might cry. There will be no sex or violence depicted in this event. And yet I might refer to both. I will change subjects frequently and quickly. I will ask questions that dig right into your heart. And I will say things that have nothing to do with you. If you can move through this, you are more capable than perhaps you understood. And if you try to bring your ego with you, you're going to slip. And you're going to slip hard. Because you play with me. Welcome. Disclaimer aside, we'll share it again. There is a perfect rhythm in this new kind of motion, devotion to things that make you perfect for this. You have to be present with yourself through all sorts of challenge. Because as reality awakens in you, it's like a chaos of noise and light and sound and vision and sensation. You have to know yourself. You have to be able to distinguish between you and the world and what you're learning to see. And a lot of you still think everything you think is you, which means you need to be kept in an eggshell, an ego, an egg. You need to be kept tight. You're not safe. Everything you touch, you think is you. That's not safe. You have to be kept away from many influences. And the influences that are brought near you, well, you're taught to meet the challenge one by one. And I am a bigger challenge, particularly today. I'm going to tell you a little story before I encourage you to leave. I will encourage anyone to leave who might blame someone, anyone, for what you're feeling. It's not just don't blame me, although I assure you, will not hold your blame. I can't control who listens to this, and I cannot tailor this message for everyone. None fit you, wake up with something in you, that's on you. Don't stick around if you can't handle it. Next, don't blame someone else. It's not your mama's fault. You chose your parents. You might not remember, but you chose the situation in which you incarnated. Now, you didn't have unlimited choices. You carried karma. And in your karma, there was a limited range of situations that could suit you. And each had advantages and disadvantages. Own the restrictions you created by generating the karma that limited your choices. If you incarnate with a narcissistic parent, maybe you got some work to do in that area and you were being exposed to a reflection of yourself in a past life. I don't know. Maybe you were being handed a very difficult life because Kaiya was responding to a prayer you made that said, let me serve, let me help, I will take on so much. And so she gave you a tough life and you're still whining about it. Own yourself. That is the goal of today. And to let go of the past is to know yourself. So here we go. Here we go. We're skipping the story. I will now invite you to leave. Come back later. If you can't watch all of this right now, be aware. Proceed at your own risk. I'd finish it today. I don't often tell you this. I would watch it all. If you try to get off this train midway through, you bet this is your medicine. You come back for it. Let me tell you a little dangerous secret because it's medicine. Wake up. Wake up. If you hurt yourself in a headstand, you want to know the medicine? Go back into the headstand, but do it better. Do it with much more support. Do it gentle. Breathe, but get yourself back into it. You hide from that, you're going to freeze it in your mind. You freeze it in your mind, you freeze the spirit. You freeze the spirit, you freeze your body. You'll pull an ankle. You'll pull your ankle because you're holding yourself in fear. And you have to own that. That's not just a physical event that just happened. Get it? Same thing goes for spiritual sequencing, movement. We are moving through a sequence today. If you get it, let us know. Comment, because this is a puzzle. It's a sacred puzzle. And we shall begin. You're still angry. You're still angry. You put your hope in them. You put your hope in them and they couldn't hold it. You're pissed. You got hurt. You got hurt. Then you decided you were just going to be a good person. You weren't going to express your anger. Good for you. Only not good for you because you haven't pushed them out. And because you didn't push them out, you still think it's their fault. And because you still think it's their fault, you're not addressing the fact that you saw the signs. You knew the signs early on. You just thought it was going to be loving to believe in them, right? You thought you were being loving. You thought your love was going to win and outweigh all the dysfunction that was right there in your face. They showed you who you were next to. And in so many ways, they showed you you. So you're going to own yourself because you're still carrying that. Still in you. Are you going to look into it? If you don't look into it, boom, ankle weight, you sink. You're going to have to feel. You're going to have to feel the fear that you messed up more than you realize. You're going to have to pass through that. You're going to have to feel the anger that they let you down. You're going to have to let yourself feel that, even though part of you doubts it. Part of you doesn't believe that it could be their fault. Part of you knows it's your responsibility, but you're still angry. You need to feel the anger and maintain responsibility. You need to feel the sadness. You need to see the sides of them that loved you in every way they knew how. That they tried so deeply in ways you didn't see, in ways you missed. You need to feel that. You need to feel relieved because you were sick of it. You need to admit to yourself you weren't strong enough. And that's not the point. That kind of strength, not designed for this life, it seems. Let go. Look, do you even know what you believe? Do you even know what you believe? Because if you don't believe consciously, you believe somewhat consciously. You believe haphazardly. You believe in a confused progression of feeling, of thought, of influence. Someone moves you, someone embodies your emotions for you, shows you a way through, and you're stumbling all over yourself, drooling because they liberate you to feel things you don't know how to feel by yourself. But you don't understand it, and you don't understand it when you pass it. So you're neither grateful nor receptive to the time as they change. It's time to change. It's time to let go. It's time to express gratitude and to get out from underneath the shade of a person who honestly cannot hold you. You need to stop allowing them to occupy this space in you. You need to say thank you as you say goodbye and allow yourself to grow. This is not a competition. It's a competency mission. It's not a competition. It's a competency mission. And you're afraid. You're afraid of being out there on your own. Admit it to yourself. You want to maintain the safety of their little awning, but they don't even know your challenges. They would not be able to handle your challenges. This is not an egoic assessment. This is truth. So honor it and liberate space to trust in your own direct divine connection. Divine wine, divine wine, divine wine, gonna blow your mind. Say it once again. All right, look, what do you have to share that you haven't shared? Oh, you're ashamed. You want to pretend you're more well than you are. You don't want to be well because you're afraid you won't be able to live up to it. You are hesitating to share your truth. Why? Let's say, boom. Oh, shit. More people than I can count. More of you than I can count. You're afraid to teach. You've been through critical transformations and you're afraid to teach. And you should be. Only teach what you're good at. When someone expects you to know more than you know, say, I don't know that. I have not experienced that. Oh, you're afraid to admit when you don't know something. Problematic, don't you think? Maybe it's not actually your fault. Maybe you live in a culture that frames entertainment and education and hospitalization and transformation in all the wrong ways. They pathologize situations that are arguably positive. You enter a phase of transformation, you make some progress, you need to communicate it. And if you don't communicate it, and if you don't open yourself to the willingness to be seen as you are, it's not going to work. You're going to be stuck. The reason you're not progressing, the reason you're not succeeding is because you are essentially sabotaging yourself by refusing to help other people through the problems you've already made it through. And make no mistake, only help them through what you know how to move through. And as you do, you will expose your flaws. You will make mistakes, and you will have to reflect on those mistakes and go to people and say, honestly, I got that wrong. Face that and keep going. Because you must be willing to be seen in order to attune with the angelic divine presence that witnesses you all the time. They already see you. They're just essentially ignoring you because you're not taking enough responsibility for your presence. By choosing to hide your light under a bushel, you are essentially saying, don't look at me. And they're saying, we can. We could brush the bushel aside and see you, but we're not going to. Light up. Be bright. Share what you know. Teach what you have to teach. And allow yourself to transform as a result of passing on the lessons that you're capable of moving through. Thus, you can step into the lessons you're truly ready for. Some of this is for you. Some of it isn't. Be patient. Pray for the people it's for when it's not for you. Okay. In a world, in a nation where let's work on the mathematical percentage of women who are in relationships in a house with a man who basically rapes them on a basic level. They don't want it. They don't want it. They're not aroused. They're not alive. And it leaves them feeling worse than they did before because they essentially absorb the negative energy that the man holds because he doesn't know how to deal with his own emotions, and he's defined emotional expression as a feminine presence. And thus the woman ends up holding her presence and the man's presence and looks neurotic. Well, she is, but it's not exactly her fault. She's holding her emotion and his stray, discarded emotion, and it functions through a sexual dynamic that's brutal. Abortion is fucking evil. And it's a necessary evil in a world where women are getting raped on a regular basis. Oh, it's not pleasant to look at. It would be nicer to be with rainbows. What proportion of relationships work this way? It's a question. It's a question. Yeah, those spirits are in those bodies. Those spirits are in those bodies. They also settle in gradually, and they can also, in many cases, move on to another one. Some of them can't. Some of them do lose their opportunity to be born as a human. There are reasons for that, and there are reasons they gravitated to a very unhealthy situation. It's not clean. It's not pretty. See it for what it is. And honor the fact that we live in a sick culture that in the future we will look back and be very sad that so much pain went on without more support. You're in a relationship. You're in a relationship. When you get in a fight, do you know when to leave? Do you know when to identify when it's time to step aside? It's not productive. It's never been productive. Have you ever really generated more love by making your points? Have you really? Have you really? I'd say maybe 10% of the time it's valuable. And even in those cases, it's done with compassion. It is rarely effective to make a vicious mic drop point with the person you're supposed to be most in love with. You need to learn to recognize when your fights are ineffective and just take space. And when you take space, don't think about their problems. Think about your problems. Think about what you could do to improve the situation. And no, sex is not the answer. The reason some men plug sex into this, the reason some women plug sex into this is because they're accustomed to it. We are still living with a dysfunctional sexuality present that suggests let's have sex to drown out the pain. Men and women do this, and it hurts us all. And I'm not saying there's no place for it. I'm saying there's no place for it leading. It is a specific tool. And when the only tool you have is a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail. Let those who have ears hear. Move through this. If you can't move through this, you or someone close to you is suffering from this malady. If you can move through this, you can help others through it. I'm giving you a lot of medicine for a lot of different challenges that are around most of us. Ready? Take a breath. Deep breath. Inhale again when you're ready. Tune in. What's something you really need today? What is something you really need today? Make it happen. Make it happen. Don't watch what gets in the way. Watch what tries to assert itself and push this aside. What do you really need to make sure you do today? What do you need to give yourself? What do you need to give yourself? Give yourself a walk. Give yourself. Wait, what do you need? And be honest. It might be something comforting. It might be a little bit of a backslip in terms of health measurements. It might be. Your heart might need it, even if it would be best if you not do it too much. Today's an intense day for many reasons. Now, quick, be honest. What are you addicted to that you need to change? Now, breathe with this. What are you addicted to? You need to change. Now, this is fun. You ready? What's a simple little fun thing you can do in 1 minute? Simple little fun thing. Fun. And also reasonably healthy for you. Think of it. What's a simple little fun thing you can do in 1 minute? How about 10 squats, 10 body weight squats? We're going to do that in a little bit. 10 body weight squats. And if you have a different idea, use that. You're going to like what we're doing here. All right, ready? 10 body weight squats. Your limits. Now, what came up during that? You're going to use that as an interruption for your bad habit. Whatever addiction you have, I want you to use that instead. So every time you feel, if you know full well you really are addicted to sugar and you're turning to sweets every day, no, you should not be turning to sweets every day. That's dysfunctional. So if you know you're doing that, do that instead, and then follow the lead of what it turns into. So I have a truth that I need to share with you. I have loved and lost quite a few people, quite a few. And so I carry a fear of being closer to people in ways that is good for me. Now, I'm working on that pretty effectively, but part of the reason it's effective is because I'm honest with myself about it. There are many of you collaborating with me, and I by no means tell you all about it. So I collaborate with one person here, one person here, one person here, and a lot of it's quiet. But I have a similar challenge with all of you, and I'm going to tell you all at once. I have very high standards, and I don't like being mean to people. So I hesitate and get a little confused about how to apply those standards, because part of me could send it back 20 times, and that's dysfunctional. But then also sometimes I don't say when I don't like something because I'm overreacting to the dysfunctional perfectionism. This is a challenge I bring. I'm sorry, and please be patient with that, because if you want to be closer, the standards go up. Now, let's be clear. I've been guiding you for a long time. Make yourself do a practice every other day for 20 minutes. This is the foundation. But let me tell you something. You're going to need a lot more than that if you're going to survive through most of the changes you're going through. I'm just not going to make you do it. I'm going to give you the tools, and I'm going to point out, sometimes even casually, you know your medicine. Are you going to do it or not? I'm not here to be that kind of coach. I'm a different kind of coach. I don't get to be with you every day. I'm not a football presence staring over your shoulder going, come on, team, you can do it. I don't fucking see you that much. I make this. 700 people saw the class last week. You know, some of them just left. But 700 people. I can't watch you all. I can't tailor this to all of you. Most of you are going to have to dig much deeper than perhaps you want to. So I'm going to give you the basic tools, and you're going to have to realize this takes years. This takes years. Move along. Go find the 15-minute YouTube video that's going to... We got people here been working hard for years, learning these practices. They practice frequently. They do a lot of hour-long practices. This takes work. You don't just show up here and just expect, like, what are you expecting? Write me a page, don't edit it, and expect me to read it? Why? Because you're so special? Because you are a divine spark of light. You are a flower of Kaiya's presence. Yeah, you are. And you will get crushed. You will get crushed if you don't learn how to dance. So you think I'm being mean by teaching you how to adjust with the wind? You have the capacity to move around. You have the capacity to shift and flow and ebb and roll. Don't plant yourself in the middle of an intersection and expect to be honored. You are not more special than anybody else here. Yeah, I understand. You've been betrayed. You've been through suicidal tendencies. You've been mislabeled. You've been abused. You've been picked on. You've been dumped. You've been called crazy. I know. And me coddling you will not make it better. I cannot and will not do that. Now, let me tell you a little bit about who I am. 18 years ago, 19 years ago, I made an explicit prayer to be worth $1,000 an hour. Now, what I was saying at the time is I was worth $1,000 an hour already because I was having a massive impact on people. And my goal became I will have single sessions with people and it will completely change their lives. And if you actually measured it on a scale, I'd be worth $1,000. Now, I have not, as of yet, been able to prove this in the market economy. But this was my point. I wasn't going to play their games. I realistically think I am probably better than that, not just accounting for inflation. And I want love more than I want money. But I want you to respect where this falls in the scales. If you can't move through the chaos that I'm sharing, don't you dare hold it as dysfunctional. This is the medicine for the chaos of the world. You must be able to shift. Flow, spin, move, adjust, moving on. Let's trust the lust. Feel the rhythm that makes you breathe. Dig down deep and learn to grieve. For what you do not believe in yet is going to learn to get you by the heart. So let's start here. What are you praying for? What are you praying for? If you're not praying consciously, you're praying unconsciously. If you're not praying consciously, you're praying by saying, I don't want that. That's a prayer, by the way. If you're remembering pain and going, never again, that's a prayer. It's a pretty bad one. Pretty sloppy one. But you're using your prayer energy that way. Can you look honestly at your prayers? Let's try these. When you get a new influx of positive energy, do you immediately return to the past and say, hey, I could make that album now? I would say 7 times out of 10, bad idea. Take a look at why you have more energy and invest in that. Invest in now. Invest in the way you are being seen now. Allow life to sprout out of what is actually of today. Because the prayers you bear from the past, likely there's a reason they didn't work. Now, in some cases, this is not true. In some cases, there are prayers that are life prayers. They really are. It's like, it's going to call you over the course of years. You are the only one that can tell the difference. Now, is this the case? Do you know you'd rather be doing something else? Oh, yeah. Let this hit you if it's true. If it's you, what is it? What do you really want? You didn't expect it to go there, did it? Be it, feel it. What do you really want? Understand, you're not going to make this go away. You're not going to silence this. You might pick it to pieces, allowing fear to guide you under the auspices that you're being practical and pragmatic. You're not. You're being led by fear. I am not here to bring you peace. I am here to bring you reality. I am here to bring you love, and love is not always peaceful. But the way to find peace is through honoring the love that is really you. See, you will not find peace while you repress your greatest desires. But make no mistake, the strongest feeling you occasionally experience is not necessarily your greatest desire. Sometimes the strongest feeling you occasionally experience is just popping a bubble. It's just a burp of intense, relatively innocuous energy. If you constantly repress yourself, every once in a while, the bubble's going to burst. It'll be really intense, but that's not necessarily an expression of what's best for you. It's just a sign you're repressing yourself too much. And it would be best if you learn to consciously engage what you are drawn towards. If everybody followed the strongest feeling they feel this month, there would be no ongoing relationships in reality. It takes discipline to move through intensity to be who you need to be. Yeah, it's not simple. You don't get to say, no fear, I face my fear. Yeah, sometimes that's exactly right. And other times, get over yourself. It's an addiction. You don't need to jump out of another fucking airplane. Adrenaline rush is an addiction too, you know. I say this to several people at once. Get over yourself. Now, you should be afraid of your dreams. You are repressing your dreams. You're afraid of them because they're mad at you. I am going to learn to bend this spoon with my mind. And part of the secret is it's not really my mind. When I tell you what I'm about to tell you, I want you to breathe, because I'm going to give you some bad news. I see you very clearly. I see the worst feelings you hold for me. I see when people are envious. I see when people are resentful. I see when people are falsely humble. I see when people are blaming me for shit that's not mine. I see it. I see it with relative clarity, and I'm investing in you. I'm being patient. Makes me happy. Should make you a little bit embarrassed, and then get over it. The rest of you are like this too. Most of you. You have to be real with all of yourself. You cannot effectively go off into the corner and hide something and have it disappear. Because people are typically thinking on a flat plane, and I know how to go do this. And you are being taught how to do this. Move up in this new dimension. And from the new dimension, everything, it's not hidden. You didn't hide that. It's right there. It's obvious. But the same is true of everybody else. Your problems are not very interesting. No offense. They're a pattern. They're patterns. And I love you much more than you annoy me. Much more. And part of loving you is to challenge you to be your best, because it's not just about you. It's not just about you. Get over yourself. Most of you share problems with someone else you're close to, who understands. By the way, I deserve easily $1,000 for this video, and I'm not going to get it yet. This is some of the most exquisite medicine you'll ever receive. And if you can't receive it, take a break. Take a break. Now, what are you doing? What are you doing? Today, what are you doing? What are you going to do if we don't do something about it? What are you going to do that you don't really want to do? This party is for everybody who wants a party for everybody. Sometimes, often, usually, depression is designed to stop you from doing stupid shit. It would be better if you lay still and sat with the muck of yourself. It would be better because you would be closer to taking healthy action. Sometimes it's better to not do anything. The problem is when people don't really believe that they get caught in static eddies. You know what an eddy is? It's a little flow in the stream. And it just goes in a circle, and the water moves by it, and it turns the eddy like a wheel, but the water doesn't move much away from where it is. Depression can be like that. To break that little eddy and bring the flow out, you first have to be at peace with the fact that at one point it was better to just shut down because you were doing the wrong things. You were striving for the wrong goals. You were trying to impress the wrong people. You were trying to live up to the wrong standards. That's you. So it would actually be better to lie on the couch. Now, look, I'd give you a week of eating junk food. Don't keep doing it. It is dysfunctional. But you need to feed the little kid in you that's pissing about, moaning, and sick of being told what to do. Because the little kid in you is more correct than the rest of you. The responsible adult in you that's crushing your own dreams should not be driving right now. It would be better if you brought a little joy into your life. So watch a stupid movie, play a video game, eat junk food, and when you get a stomach ache, move on. Get over it and begin to be present with what actually brings you life. Today, I don't want you to do that thing that you were going to do. Don't. What, is somebody going to come and pick you up? Are they going to pick you up? Just sit still. Just sit still, lie still, sloppy still. Don't eat all day. You're not going to die. Don't eat all day. Nobody can make you do shit. You are being made to do the things you don't want to do by you. It's not your mother's fault. It's not your partner's fault. It's not your children's fault. It's not your boss's fault. It's not the culture's fault. It's nobody's fault. A fault is a gap between you and what you really need to be. So narrow that gap. What do you really need to be? If you don't know, sit still. Now, let me tell you something. I go too far, not for you, but for the people you love. And the reason I do this is because I love you. But the problem is a lot of you want to bring everybody you love with you. And once you've given too much to the other people in your life, you come to me and act as if I owe you something. I don't owe you shit. I'm not getting paid enough as it is. But sometimes you give someone a finger and they take a hand. And let me tell you, I regrow my hands, but I'm a little inefficient about it. And this is really me. I want to be clear. You have to be able to challenge the people in your life to make the changes they need to make. And it's not easy. I won't give you permission to play the way other teachers give you permission to play. Let's amend that. I won't give you permission to play the way other people who record videos on YouTube play. Meaning, no, you don't just get to call everybody who you don't like or who makes you uncomfortable, who challenges you, a narcissist or a toxic person. How convenient that everybody who bothers you is toxic and narcissistic. Fucking get over it. It is hard to change. When you can't draw clear boundaries, you can't expect other people to. Here's how to do it. You say no to energies. You don't say no to people. You say no to sickness, sick patterns. And to say no to them, you have to clearly see them. And to clearly see them, you have to witness the pain within yourself and the people you love. And you have to witness it honestly. And then you have to stop hugging it endlessly. If you take your strength and you just snuggle with everybody's sickness whenever they want it, nobody's going to be well. You will just recatch the disease. And if you run back to me, pay me. I need more sessions. I need roughly, I'm not going to say. I need more sessions. I will take you on. I can handle you, but I will challenge you. And that's not convenient for people who want to be told what you want to be told. You want to change your life? I'll help you. Be ready. Now, consider this. You have a bunch of people in your life who you're trying to outlove them. This goes for more than half of you. You are trying to outlove them. The other half, you really are too cold-hearted. You blame everybody else too much for being abusive and narcissistic and toxic. Realize that it's lazy. It's lazy. Now, I'm not saying these things aren't real. They're real, but understand them. They're sick. A narcissist is someone who's so wounded that they're staring at themselves wherever they look. They're trying to project their pain elsewhere. So even when they're talking to you, they're not talking to you. They're seeing reflections of themselves wherever they go. And really, they just want to keep bringing it back to a conscious topic that they control. It's a real thing. You need to learn to recognize when someone behaves this way. Just don't get off on it. It's sad. And you've likely seen the love in them. You've seen, you know, the trapped part of them that would like it to change. Well, let me tell you, the only way you are going to effectively function to catalyze change in their life is if you draw a clear boundary and you say no to the sickness and yes to the love. And you do this. You invite them into health. You say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do my practice tomorrow. Would you like to learn this practice that I have to share? No, I can't do that because I tried to and I hurt my foot. Okay, well, let me know when you're ready. I'll teach you a breathing exercise version. Oh, no, because that makes my concentration doesn't work because I was thinking about the way my dad hurt me. Okay, let me know when you're ready to do some real work. Let me know when you're ready to join me in health. We all need to tell our stories, but you need to be potty trained. Stories, they're both sacred and awful. Our stories are crucial, fundamental, essential. They're our truth. We need to speak our truth. And we need to get over it because it's likely you only have an incomplete vision of what's happening. Understand, this rips you apart. This rips apart relationships and you don't get to know. To be the healthy catalyst for transformation in your communities, you have to stake a claim to health and say, ain't nobody is going to hold me down. Now, make no mistake, I almost entirely discourage divorce unless physical abuse, deep-seated narcissistic manipulation, coercion. But even the seeds of these things, look, most of us have them. I support you deeply if you need to leave a relationship that is simply, it's not going to get better. And you know the truth of this. Too many people that's true for. Listen, you have to be able to trust this. And a lot of you don't. Let me tell you, does this sound familiar? I'm not going to make that mistake again. What a crappy prayer. I'm not going to make that mistake again. Now, what you want to do is, of course, you don't want to make that mistake again. Of course, you don't want to suffer like that again. Of course. By the way, thank you. Somebody just thought of giving me a donation. I would appreciate it. Now, please understand, when you embody the rhythms that are healthy, that is the best defense. But you don't want your no to be louder than your yes. Have you ever heard this one? The universe doesn't understand no. It's not entirely true. I'm honestly a little bit sick of hearing it because it's not entirely true. But there is a lot of truth to it. Because when your attention is on what you don't want, you are generating a negation prayer. So what you honestly get is another version that won't work. So you will literally attract that situation in a form that you have an easier time saying no to. Presumably because you need yet another version of the lesson that taught you that you don't want that. So it's not useless, but it is holding space for you to move on to focus on what you really want. The best prayer is to focus on the positive, but this is where your fear, it really rests. Because the semi-conscious awareness is that when you go for it, thank you. When you go for it, brings up the pain. And you have to be committed to be, so your problems here, you got to be this much stronger. your problems here, you got to be this much stronger. Whatever your challenges are, accumulate them all, stack them up. You got to be bigger than that. Think about how awesome this is. Think about how awesome this is. It's not really up to you. Just take this step back deep within yourself, back deep into yourself. You have a range of challenges. You have a range of challenges. Aim to be big enough to meet them and transform. You don't need to know. You don't need to know the math. You just need to aim for this element of the equation. You will do what it takes. And then immediately you will get a clear vision. Now, you might not be able to interpret your clear vision yet, but you will get a litany of, but I might lose my husband, but I might alienate my son, but I might wake up passion with my ex, but I might have to face the fact that I actually was more of an asshole than I thought I was. It wasn't all their fault. It wasn't. Maybe you moved through something and you said, they were a narcissistic, abusive person. Why were you with a narcissistic, abusive person? It's a question. Now, I'm not blaming you. This is not blaming the victim. This is putting you in a position where you recognize your power. Because if you just sit around externalizing your troubles, you will never recognize where you can change them. Sometimes the earth gives us pain just to help her change it. Sometimes it's not punishment. But if you at one point said you're willing to serve and she gave you some pain and you're still whining about how difficult it is, that's why you're not progressing. Keep it that simple. Yeah, they're textbook narcissistic and abusive. I'm not saying they aren't. But did you handle yourself as best you could? At the very least, can you look back and recognize the signs you were given that this wasn't healthy? Can you own the part of you that thought that you were so powerfully loving that your love could outweigh it? Own it. Own that. And go back to the earth. Go back to the earth and say, all right, that didn't work. What am I going to do now? I lost a friend once. I went through an extraordinary experience. I sacred ceremony, days by myself after days with people. I led some ceremonies and then I stayed in the space for days. And at the end of it, I brought up this pain and I wanted company. I wanted solace. I remembered being treated poorly in a relationship, but I expressed it as if it's so awfully her fault. I was playing that game. I chose to be there. It was awful, but my power is in refusing to do that again. I want you to be your best. I want to be there for you when you need to cry. I want to generate a community full of people who know how to hold space for each other when you cry. But we're not just going to blame everybody who's not here. That's so easy. It's so easy. Think about it. I want you to take full responsibility for yourself. And you know what you find underneath that? My mind has found peace, and my heart is at ease. My mind has found peace, and my heart is at ease. Oh, where are you going with all that is you? I pray that you follow what's deep. Transform as you do. May love always guide you through. See, I know what it takes to move through a lot. I was explaining to my son today what it took for me to face down a man holding a knife at my throat. I was trying to teach him that being ready to fight is not always the best way. Sometimes it is. But I cannot count the number of times I have avoided fights without really feeling like I lost. I maintained my heart. I knew how to understand and see with compassion. And the vibe changed the scene. You have so much power. But you have to know how to use it. And that is why we're here. And if you complain that it's difficult, you're not going to match the challenge that has been set. And you don't get to know. You have to presume. Maybe it's karmic. Maybe the karma is something that was handed to you. Maybe you made a prayer that said, let me serve. Show me what I can do to help. You have to be in the vagueness to make it through much of this. And to put yourself in a position to match the challenge that you're in without drowning. Yeah, I know something's trying to pull you under. You got to keep swimming and you got to get stronger. Yes, I know they are not treating you well. Are you going to whine about it? Or are you going to carefully and clearly dig deep and make an intelligent decision about how to change? Sometimes you got to go cold because you're in danger. So you go cold and you pray. And don't you dare tell me that you don't have time to pray or it's too difficult to meditate. Meditate with your ass on the cold cement. I've done it far more times than I can count. You're cold at night. You don't have a blanket. You don't have heat. Get up and build it inside you. And yes, you activate your power on this level, you're going to break people. They might die. Some people may well be holding you who might die if you step into yourself. But let's be clear. If that happens, they are way too dependent on you. And you have to be at peace with that. If you are bleeding into them, do not come to me for more blood. Come to me for the fortitude to learn how to stop and cauterize that wound. And if they can't take care of themselves with God, then you have to let them fall. And pray. Pray for them every step of the way. But we are all left alone with the divine. And not just once. And I can't be there for you. And if you try to trace it back and say, well, Daniel taught me this lesson and then it didn't work, fuck you. Own yourself. This is not the same as blaming yourself. This is taking responsibility for yourself. So you go deep within yourself and you identify things. Now, it's possible for me to give you my shit. It is. Likely as not, you wouldn't know the difference. But I'm out here praying constantly to have as positive an impact on other people as I can. And when I wake up and I am taught very clearly to lead people through this sequence, and there is rhythm to what I'm doing, well, then I do it and I trust. And I pray within my consciousness because I have multiple tracks happening at once here. I express on one level and I'm praying. Show me where to step in my mind. Show me how to recollect and teach me what I find. Honor the way in which these rhythms are designed and find the heart within. Because my mind is at peace and my heart has found ease. My mind has found peace and my heart is at ease. Understand, we're transcending. We're leaving history behind. I know I might lose some of you over these, But if you were the kind of person that considers this a negative, best you move along. There are few things more disgusting than a man who would sleep with another woman when his wife has a 1-month-old baby. Of all the different things you could do in life, that's just fucking gross. The closest person to you, you betray on that level. Now, I don't know a man who doesn't feel overwhelmed and fried when they have a baby. I don't know a man who has no relationship to finding another woman attractive. But what you do is who you are, how you handle these forces and pressures. We live in a culture that does not respect our female elders. And we don't really respect our male elders either. We are designed in the United States as a survivalist culture. Come here and go out west and make a life for yourself. And believe me, there were skeletons all over the West. There are skeletons all over this country as it got settled because it was fucking brutal. But the people who survived built egos within their families about it. And they accorded power to alphas. They liked defining the alpha male because an alpha male is good at organizing people to face the wolves. When you live by rules that essentially turn men into stallions, herd animals, you break human. You break what is human. Stay human. When you pass beyond the limits of the hues that make up human consciousness, you become an animal. When you become a creature, you're inaccessible to conscious morality, tenderness, compassion, to the forces that move us, to the sacred presence of the gift we've been given to live in this body. And we've been wrestling with this force for 10,000 years. This vague boundary between human and animal. Animals are animals for a reason. You live too much like an animal, you're going to reincarnate like one. You live too much like a coyote, you will reincarnate as a coyote. You live too much like a praying mantis, you will reincarnate as a praying mantis. You live too much like a bull, you'll reincarnate as a bull. Say no. This party is for everybody who wants a party, for everybody. This party for everybody who wants a party, for everybody. Let those who have ears hear. Ah, look at that. Breathe. Breathe right here. We're home, yo. We're home. You got to ignite the light in your heart. And it shines into everything it sees. It dredges it to the surface like a stream that brings the muck and the rot into view. But prana is more magical than just water. As we raise the corpses of the past, we bring life into them. You feel them. You recognize yourself, the rotted, repressed, hidden, traumatized sides of yourself. You turn on the light in your heart. You have to be willing to face everything, and you have to stop shrinking from it. You have to know in that moment that you must be more, stronger, bigger, greater, more resolved, more present, more resilient than whatever comes to life. And that's how you keep going. Fear, be afraid. Let the terror tear you apart, and pray for love. And if you don't know how to do that yet, if you have never had to do that yet, I pray that you remember when the time comes.